How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is episode 5 of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated with your host, Tom Cavanaugh. Today is Wednesday, November 6th, 2024, and we got a few things to talk about today. Going to be looking at a couple of different sports today for the Bruins. Friday is going to be a busy day. We got the football squad playing out at the Rose Bowl. They're going to be taking on Iowa, and then traveling to a neutral site. The Bruins basketball team, head coach Mick Cronin and his squad, going to be taking on New Mexico at a neutral site. So a lot of action over the next couple of days. Stay tuned for Friday night. Going to have recaps from both games, football and basketball, and then obviously cleaning that up throughout the weekend. But we're going to break down a few of the different key aspects to both contests and their respective sports. So we'll start with Cronin's group and the Bruins basketball team coming off a huge 35-point win, 85-50 over Rider University in the season opener at home earlier in the week. They got a few days to rest, look at some film, critique a few things after playing their first regular season. It's their second game. It was their second game against an actual different opponent, as they played one exhibition match and then went on to play Rider this past week. Started the year 1-0 and coming in ranked 22nd in the country. This is a team that has a lot of expectations. They're bringing in 6 new transfer players. 4 of them started against Rider, and likely going to see the same lineup. We talked about it all over the weekend and a little bit into this early week, how some of these guys can affect the team, a few of the returners that have come back and had a bright first game. But this is a completely different matchup for the Bruins this weekend, taking on a New Mexico team that won the Mountain West tournament last year. They went to the national tournament, went to March Madness, ended up losing to Clemson, who made the Elite Eight, ultimately lost to Alabama. But this New Mexico team is good. Under their head coach Pitino, he is, basketball royalty. His father, Rick, obviously been around the game a long time, national champion at Louisville, former coach at Kentucky, and then also now at St. John's. But his son, Richard Pitino, is he's a heck of a coach, and this is going to be a great matchup between Cronin and Pitino. New Mexico, we'll break down a few of their key players as well. But this Bruins team, they're going to have to step up a little bit because they're facing a national contender. So these New Mexico Lobos, coming off their season opener, took down Nichols 91-84 in Albuquerque earlier this week on November 4th. And it was a tight margin. Nichols, not a bad team. You got to look at it one or two ways. Either this Lobos team had a down game, which they didn't, scoring 91 points. They just gave up a ton to Nichols, who scored 84. And a lot similar of an outcome to what they did in their exhibition against UTEP back at the end of October. They won that game by 4 points, 74-70. So a couple tight margin ball games for the Lobos over the last couple of games to start out their season. But I mean, when you look at some of these players that have been getting the success for this team, scoring the basketball, there's a couple that really jump out. When you start with a guy, leading scorer, Nelly Jr. Joseph, the center, he is a senior from Benin City, Nigeria. And boy, did he have a heck of a game. 28 points. He played 36 minutes, had 16 rebounds, 3 blocks, and he went to the line 12 times, making 10 of those free throws to help him out get to nearly 30 points. But kind of a cool story for Nelly. He was a part of Iona back for the first 3 seasons. He started his college career in 2020, so he's a fifth-year senior now. But when he was at Iona, he was under head coach Rick Pitino, the father of Rich, who is coaching him now. So Rick called him up. He said, "Hey, son, I got a kid. He's a pretty darn good player, and I think you could use him." And boy, has he. Last year was Junior Joseph's first season with the Lobos. Averaged only 8.5 or just under 9 points a game at 8.9. His rebounding, 8.2 per game. Every other stat was kind of middle of the pack, averaged just over 2 fouls a game. So, I mean, he's a big presence standing in there at 6'10", 245 pounds, a guy that's going to cause some issues. Adai and Nelly Jr. Joseph are going to have quite a battle down low. Adai is the 7'3" center for the Bruins, and I think Junior Joseph from New Mexico has got a little bit extra size on him, not in the height category, but more so on the beefy side. So that should be a really competitive battle down low. Obviously, Nelly was able to kind of thrive against a lesser team with a lack of size. Adimara, he was only able to get 5 points together in that win they had against Ryder earlier this week. So expect that one to be a good one in the paint. Donovan Dent, the junior at 6'2", 185. He has spent every year of his college career as a Lobo, and he's in his third season, coming off a year where he averaged 14 points per game. Pretty solid from him. He didn't do a ton of rebounding, did average just under 5.5 assists. So he played in 35 games last year. He was a pivotal piece a year ago. So was he 2 years ago as well, coming off the bench. And in game one, he was the guard that really quarterbacked this offense. He put together 15 points, had 11 assists as well. He's one of 3 different guys that went for a double-double. So it was Nelly Jr. Joseph who had the assists and also the points, and then you got the rebounds and the points. It was Donovan Dent who had the assists and the points in double digits. And then another guy you take a look at is Mustafa Amzil. He went 13 points, 13 rebounds. Really good stuff from him. He's a senior forward. So there's some great talent at all ranges of size and ability here, from the guard position to the forward, now to the center. And this Lobos team, just after one game, it's a small glance, but they were not able to shoot the ball all that well from three-point range. Just 7 of 36 shooting the ball from three, and most of their points that were scored, 91 total, most of those were in the paint. Now, there were some mid-range jump shots that were made too. Some guys did have some decent shooting days. Dent went 5 of 11. Nelly Jr. Joseph went 9 of 15 from the field. Amzil went 5 of 15, not the greatest. But then some other guys, True Washington, he's another guard. He went 4 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point range. So a lot to like from this New Mexico team, and it's going to be a huge challenge for UCLA, who will play a completely different opponent than who they faced in Ryder earlier this week. Switching over to the football side of things, it's another huge game for the Bruins in Big Ten play. They were able to pick up big wins against Rutgers and Nebraska on the road. Now they're back home here at the Rose Bowl, going to be playing on against the Iowa Hawkeyes. 6-3 Hawkeyes coming off a couple of big wins. They've won 3 of their last 4. Their only loss in their last month has been against Michigan State. And just looking at the team, there's one point of emphasis that the Bruins need to do to win this ball game, and it's stopping the run. Stopping the junior Caleb Johnson, who is lighting up the stat sheet right now across the entire nation. Everybody's heard of Ashton Genty with Boise State, Heisman candidate. He's going off upwards of 20 rushing touchdowns on the year. He's also got 1,500 yards on the season too, which is pretty incredible. But the next guy up in second place to Genty is Caleb Johnson from the Hawkeyes. He's got over 1,200 rushing yards. That's good for second best in the country. He has 19 rushing touchdowns. That's tied for second best, one behind Genty, who has 20. So if Ashton Genty wasn't having the type of year he was having, Caleb Johnson's the number 1 running back in the country. And he has really led this Hawkeye team to being so darn good, playing a 6-3 record so far this season, eligible for a bowl, and really being a fringe team to be nationally ranked in all of college football. Johnson has made the Hawkeyes the number 1 rushing team in the Big Ten. From the other side of the offense, the passing has not been good at all. Transfer quarterback Cade McNamara has led his team to be the worst passing offense in the conference. So it's really been on Caleb Johnson to carry a large load offensively. But he's going to have a tough time. I mean, this is a great matchup because you have one of the best running backs in the entire country going up against a really darn good defensive front, good defense, or rush defense, I should say, for the Bruins. They rank 4th in the conference in rush defense. Carson Schwessinger, he just won a couple of mid-season awards. He was a semifinalist for the Butkus Award for one of the best linebackers. The former walk-on, him, Cade Medrano as well, who had a pick-6 interception against Nebraska and several tackles last week. Those guys are going to command that defense in the middle of the field and try to stop Johnson. And when you look at the numbers over the last 9 games, I guess, the entire time of the season for the Hawkeyes, there's only been 3 games that Johnson has not rushed for over 100 yards, which, I mean, he's obviously got over 1,200 on the year. He has to be averaging close to over 100 every single game. He is averaging 7.5 yards per carry. But when you look at it, he's gone under 100 just twice this year, once against Michigan State and then once against Ohio State. Both of those were losses. So if you keep him to under 100 yards, your chances of winning exponentially improve. That's got to be the key for the Bruins, is being able to limit Caleb Johnson, keep him to sub 100 yards, and hopefully the offense is able to do their job. That kind of leads me into my next point of Ethan Garbers being able to put together yet another great performance. 600 plus yards passing in the last 2 games, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's combined over both wins against Rutgers and Nebraska. This kid's playing his best football of his entire career. 4th-year senior, has been with the Bruins for his entire collegiate career, and he's putting it on display here late in the season. And why not do it one more time? This is a team at 3-5 that is looking to keep their bowl streak alive. They played in 3 straight bowl games dating back to 2022, and this would be their 3rd straight bowl game dating back to 22. And if Garbers is able to really kind of keep that pedal on the gas and continue to play good football, find open receivers, he's had time in the pocket, and when he's flushed out, he finds yards with his feet. Garbers was yet to put together a positive rushing yard throughout the first several games of the season. In the last 2, he has rushed for over 45 in both. So he has the ability to run on his feet, pick up a couple extra first downs, dive for the pylon or the first down marker if he needs to. So Iowa's got to keep contain on him. They cannot crash in too heavy because Garbers can run the football as well as throw it. Both contests should be good ones. Both on Friday night. You got a late contest from the Bruins basketball team. They play at 9 o'clock. And the same goes for the football team as well. Both of those games kicking off at 9 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be 6 p.m. on the Pacific Coast. I want to give a big thanks to everybody tuning in tonight to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated with Tom Cavanaugh. We'll see you again tomorrow, everybody. Thanks so much. Have a great night.